In 2011, I had the most profound movie-going experience of my life. It was in Washington, D.C.'s E Street Cinema that me and my best friend watched Lars von Trier's Melancholia. It's one of the bleakest films ever made. An exploration of depression, ending with all of Earth consumed by the titular gas giant. The protagonist, played by Kirsten Dunst, has a sort of gift of sight. And through her, we are told that there is no life in the universe except on this planet.
Life is only on Earth. And not for long.
So when the alien planet Melancholia crashes into Earth at the end of the film, the audience is meant to read it as the end of all life everywhere. This shot, with the planet moving towards the viewer at a terrifying speed, is breathtaking on a big screen. Imagine the frame being overwhelmed, a fire, a blackness, and the surround sound of the theater speakers playing the endless roar of a crumbling celestial body back further into the theater.
Then the credits rolled, and we all left our seats. And you know what happened? My friend and I left the theater, and the world was still there. Streetlights still shone, traffic still buzzed, Earth was firm beneath our feet. Then we found out the car that we took downtown was parked in front of a hydrant and had been towed, with about $12,000 worth of camera equipment that I had rented from my grad school's film program for student projects, still in the trunk, and therefore making it $12,000 that I was liable for. The rest of the night was a lot of panicking and screaming and self-blame on both sides, but we eventually found the towing company that took the car, and we got it back. Car, camera, equipment, and all. We hugged it out. Then I think about that night all the time I missed the f*** out of you. Hell of a reminder that no matter what happens in a movie, life still goes on. And that's what this video is about. Movies that end the world, and what it means to live on after it.
And we will all go together when we go. One comforting fact that is to know. Universal bereavement and inspiring achievement. Yes,
Melancholia is not the only film that ends the world. In fact, it's almost a micro-genre, where the film's end equals the world's end. Kino. Pure Kino.
So why talk about these movies now? Well, because of and it sure feels like the end can happen at any second, with catastrophe piling on catastrophe, so the anxious part of all our brains is just there going, where's the kaboom? Where's the earth-shattering kaboom? I hope that Marvin the Martian was accurate.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom!
There's definitely the morbid pleasure found in watching most any horror movie where certain characters are marked for death. The pathos parade of photogenic and expendable young adults before we meet the killer of a slasher movie is a genre staple. Yes, even in this one genre film, which finds itself collapsing into another genre film, and ends with The World's End, that morbidity is still there. I'll admit, part of me came into the 2009 film Knowing, totally excited to watch Nicolas Cage get all crispy fried, and then being rather disappointed the massive solar flare that obliterates all life on Earth takes out New York, etc. Like, we get this amazing VFX shot of Manhattan engulfed in flame. I love this detail of the Central Park lake evaporating. That's attention to detail right there. But New York's destruction is used as shorthand for the destruction of the whole world, as is often the case.
You maniacs! You blew it up!
But isn't that reflective of how we're taught to view the world? The West Coast has been dealing with wildfires choking the air with ash for years. But this year, when wildfires in Canada shrouded the New York City skyline in ash, suddenly it became more real, more iconic. The same myopic view of the world shown in fact and in fiction.
Oh no, not the Times Square Bubba Gump shrimp!
Although Knowing is a bit of an outlier in this group. The The tension comes to the fact that only a select few people actually know that the world is going to be burnt in a solar flare. For the rest of the world, which director Alex Proyas ignores, the apocalypse is just a fun surprise. Also, Alex Proyas ends with an implausible, pseudo-biblical deus ex machina where aliens save two small children and leave them to frolic in golden fields like the dogs we all sent to the farm upstate. Anyway, in the rest of these films, a timer is set on the lifetime of everyone and everything on planet Earth.
A direct hit of Earth in 6 months and 14 days.
Is there any official estimate as to how much longer?
5 months before it gets here.
70-mile-wide asteroid known commonly as Matilda is set to collide with Earth in exactly 3 weeks' time.
It's day 0. It's New Order code speak for the day the world ends.
We're now 14 hours and 44 minutes away from the end of the Earth. Our live coverage continues.
We have 12,000 people.
50 minutes and counting! Christ, it is kids are gonna kill f***ing take it!
Coming up on the last night on the planet, and you're listening to CKRT, the top 500 songs of all time, with you until the end.
Often, the whole world knows it. The headlines roll by, everyone makes end-of-the-world plans.
Catching up on some me time, find God, maybe move around some chairs.
Maybe I'll run into you at a support group or an orgy or something.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
And it shouldn't shock you that a lot of those plans involve wild hedonism.
We ain't gonna get high now, we're never getting high.
I wasn't sure I'd get off in time, but...
Sarah and Dave brought heroin.
Bucket list. Bucket list.
How can the members be expected to get through 400 bottles of water in 5 months' time? Bad planning, I said.
It can't hurt you unless you get about this close to it. All the chaos is total, it's absolute.
You guys are getting heavy. I just want to get laid, you know?
You just want to get laid?
Yeah.
You just want to get laid?
Uh-huh.
I made a list. I made a comprehensive list, and then I went out and I actively tried to meet those goals. I had to look in my heart. Some of these things were hard to achieve. Some of these things were hard to admit to. But I'm proud of what I've done. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I'm not going to my grave with any regrets.
What are you gonna do when it happens? You got anything planned?
Got a few puzzles I'll try and get finished.
Puzzles?
Applause for this woman. She clearly has her life together. She has goals. May we all have this level of chill in the end times.
Oh, sing Matilda. Oh, sing Matilda. You come
Going into this project, I wasn't surprised by the party like there's no tomorrow of it all. But I was surprised by the Australia of it all.
And his ghost may be heard as you pass by.
One of the older films in this genre is 1959's On the Beach, starring Gregory Peck, Ava Gardner, and Fred Astaire as, of all things, a nuclear scientist.
Everybody had an atomic bomb and counter bombs and counter bombs. The devices outgrew us. We couldn't control them. I know. I helped build them.
Now I am become Dance, the tapper of toes. In the film, nuclear fallout has already circled the globe, killing all life. And so the action takes place in the last city on Earth, which happens to be Melbourne, Australia.
Here it is, folks. It's happened.
Oddly enough, this 2013 film set in Perth shares the same basic premise.
Approximate time of impact. That's 7:30 a.m. Earth time.
Though it's not nuclear fallout, but an asteroid impact in the North Atlantic, creating an inferno that will engulf the world, saving Australia for last.
As I speak to you right now, it's making its way towards our fair nation.
Two entirely separate movies about Australians just casually waiting for the apocalypse to come. Which is not a lot, but it's weird that it happened wow. My Doofenshmirtz is way worse than my Marvin the Martian, I'm sorry.
I have to ask, Australia? You okay? I mean, is there something in the Australian national character that encourages the self-image of apocalyptic spectator? I mean, Australian cinema certainly contributed a lot to the post-apocalyptic genre. But Mad Max, along with things like Fallout and The Stand and all those other things, Those are post-apocalyptic, the ongoing stories of survivors. We're talking about absolute endings in this video. Assured finality. As the song goes, we are talking about scenarios where we will all go together when we go.
That's Arc number 3, sir.
So that also leaves out the likes of Roland Emmerich, who will destroy the world but keep survivors.
When worlds collide, you'll see the most amazing, awe-inspiring scenes ever put on film. The forces of nature unleashed in all their terrifying force.
And it also leaves out any disaster movie about the Herculean efforts of science and engineering to ensure survivors, like in the 1950s movie When Worlds Collide.
An army of scientists worked desperately to build this giant rocket, this modern Noah's Ark.
And of course, this excludes any adaptation of the story of Noah.
After all, remember the spiritual, immortalized by James Baldwin. God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water. The fire next time.
Unconfirmed rumors of possible nuclear attack have spread.
A common theme in nearly all of these films is about finding meaning in those last moments, like in this American indie film from the 80s.
It's hell out there now, isn't it?
Just blot it out.
If you weren't in here with me, that would be hell.
Did you notice the tree?
It's a nice tree.
And also this Canadian film from the 90s.
You always used to wake us at 6 o'clock. Oh, can we open the presents now, Mom? Mom, it's Christmas. Wake up, Dad! Now he comes an hour late.
Well, Mom, for one thing, it's not really Christmas today, is it, Mom? And for another thing, it's the end of the world.
I'll check the dinner.
Would it hurt you to play along just once?
Don't let me fall asleep, promise.
I promise.
And again in Lorene Scarafia's Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
I wish I'd met you a long time ago.
Couldn't have happened any other way. Had to happen now.
But it is enough time.
Never would have been.
Isn't it beautiful up here?
Too beautiful, you bitch.
And in this film, in the arms of a much younger lover, as opposed to trying to make up with the mother of your child before the end of existence.
It was you that didn't stay.
I didn't stay. Who ran off with the teenager?
I didn't run off. It was you. It was your pride.
Abel Ferrara's 444 is a midlife crisis movie wrapped in an apocalypse movie, which also includes curated interviews from various public intellectuals, incomprehensible montages of people mourning around the world, and needless reminders about the time Willem Dafoe wore blackface doing experimental theater.
So, fast has been hello, nuts, you lost your note, that's what. This is a man's shop, get me here belongs. It runs this.
It was in the 80s when Dafoe was part of this experimental theater group called the Worcester Group. Moving on, that's not what this video is about. Sorry to ruin Willem Dafoe for you.
Doesn't taste store-bought, does it?
That theme of finding meaning in those final moments remains true in the Academy Award-nominated Don't Look Up, where the final moments are spent with friends and family.
We really did have everything, didn't we?
Don't Look Up is a fascinating movie. My last video essay was about the legacy of Network, which has been struggling with copyright bots. Please watch it, I think it turned out very well. And in that video, two descendants of Howard Beale I didn't mention were Dr. Randall Mindy and Kate Dibiasky, played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence.
I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
And you should stay up all night, every night, crying, when we're all 100% for sure gonna die!
Their on-camera outbursts are, like those of Howard Beale, subsumed back into the larger mass media machine.
There was an immediate backlash that quickly became a meme.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, that's terrible.
They just think I'm crazy.
I mean, look at that. That's so unnecessary.
And the consequence of that is the end of life on Earth. Adam McKay's done better satires. Don't Look Up is no The Landlord.
Hi, Pearl. You don't have to raise your voice. I can give you half.
Other YouTubers have dissected this film long before me and made very salient points about how its satire falls flat. Yes, politicians in the mass media have failed to address the ongoing climate crisis with the seriousness it deserves, But a comet's imminent strike is a poor analogy for ongoing human-created climate change. One of these isn't our fault, and isn't under our control, and a comet would affect everyone equally. The current climate crisis is affecting poorer nations far worse than richer ones.
But, I'll fess up. The end of the world montages really did it for me. Sure, tell me some A-list actors playing characters are sad about a comet and I'll buy in, but put a clip of some otters freaking out and... oh no! Those otters didn't do anything! Those otters don't know what a comet is! And... yes, this is total hack filmmaking. It's Ed Wood stuff.
Why, if I had half the chance, I could make an entire movie using this stock footage. The story opens on these mysterious explosions. Nobody knows what's causing them, but it's upsetting all the buffalo.
But... dang it. It worked on me. I'm a rube.
Don't Look Up is a poor satire on climate change, but I honestly think it's a good solid sci-fi movie about the last months of life on Earth before it gets hit by a comet. But still, it's rather traditional. And I mean that in two ways. First, having the end of the Earth brought by comet has a long tradition behind it. The oldest film in this subgenre I could find was this Danish Silent, undoubtedly inspired by the 1910 appearance of Halley's Comet. A comet is also the means of destruction in Abel Gance's Fin du Monde, a fascinating film that has long been considered lost. I couldn't find a better copy than this rip with a French audio track and doubly hard-coded subtitles in Spanish and Italian.
La fin du monde! La fin du monde!
Still, this film isn't widely available. Yet the similarities between this and modern disaster films are quite strong. And yes, I know I cracked a joke about Adam McKay's use of otters, but titan of French silent cinema Abel Gance did the exact same thing with penguins, so what the hell do I know? Second, in Don't Look Up, there are survivors. Yes, Earth is reduced to cinders, but the 1% get aboard an ark to the nearest habitable planet, where they are immediately eaten by aliens.
Whatever you do, don't crack them!
But survivors of the end times are to be expected. The rule of such stories, not the exception, is that there is at least one survivor. In the vast majority of apocalyptic texts, there is a lone human who remembers the time before the end to bear witness to the post-Anthropocene age.
What's up, y'all? I'm the last man on Earth.
A storytelling trope as old as the mother of science fiction herself, Mary Shelley, who wrote of a great plague taking all of humanity save for one man in her 1826 novel, The Last Man. Protagonist Lionel Verney outlives all of his dearest friends, as Shelley herself had done, and ends fated to wander the depopulated continents accompanied only by a loyal sheepdog. Certainly a lasting image.
I said fine, and I ain't kidding.
One does not say ain't, Albert. Simply say, I'm not kidding.
Fine, dog meat.
How you would stone a poor, defenseless animal, wouldn't you?
Adventure time. Come on, grab your friends. We'll go to very distant lands.
And yes, Adventure Time also plays with these tropes. And it's also apocalyptic fiction.
Fallout fans will get a kick out of this. Mary Shelley even uses the phrase lone wanderer. As Verney sets sail on empty seas, he muses, and then, no matter where, the oozy caves and soundless depths of ocean may be my dwelling before I accomplish this long-drawn voyage, or the arrow of disease find my heart as I float singly on the weltering Mediterranean, or in some place I touch at, I may find what I seek, a companion, or, if this may not be, to endless time, decrepit and gray-headed, youth already in the grave with those I love, the lone wanderer will still unfurl his sail, and clasp the tiller, and, still obeying the breezes of heaven, forever round another and another promontory, anchoring in another and another bay, still plowing seedless ocean. This lone wanderer isn't just a cliché, but a storytelling necessity for post-apocalyptic stories. If no one is alive in New York City, why should we, the audience, look at New York City?
This is New York, as no man has ever seen it. Empty, deserted, its teeming millions gone. This is the setting for the most unusual picture ever filmed.
Yes, decades before Will Smith, Harry Belafonte wandered a depopulated NYC before finding survivors.
I did see you're real.
Don't touch me.
white survivors.
That's good. That's very funny.
I have nothing against Negroes, Ralph.
That's white of you.
The film wipes away the society that kept these characters segregated, to comment on that society.
We have only one problem. There are two of us and one of her. What are we going to do about it?
Why don't you toss a coin?
If you don't stop, I'll shoot, and I don't care which one. I'm not going to live with two of you at each other's throats trying to prove which one is God.
A similar trio forms in The Quiet Earth, where a lone survivor of a terrible science experiment goes mad with loneliness, before finding a man and a woman, and before another cataclysm creates an even lonelier world. Yes, I know talking about these films breaks my own no survivors rule, but they all illustrate a key facet of apocalyptic fiction. Absence. So much of post-apocalyptic fiction builds on this inherent absence. There's a famous bit of movie trivia about how the opening shots of 28 Days Later were simply achieved by filming London in the early morning, with streets strategically blockaded. The empty city is a post-apocalyptic staple, and an image that became all too familiar to us at the height of the pandemic.
The end of the world as a simple absence. A peaceful thought, no?
That's the spirit, sonnies. Peace on earth.
This 1939 short builds on this notion. Taking the well-worn tropes of cute animal cartoons, Peace on Earth postulates that such a saccharine utopia could only exist in the absence of humanity.
What are men, Grandpa? Yeah, Grandpa, what are men?
There ain't no men in the world no more, sonnies. no more men.
As an old squirrel, voiced by Mel Blanc, tells the story of how humanity destroyed itself in war. Allowing for the innocence of nature to flourish.
Ye shall rebuild the old waste.
As we all said during the pandemic, nature is healing.
And before the invention of the atom bomb, before the specter of human-driven climate change, even the bleakest stories imagine beauty after humanity. Like in this lovely poem, written in 1918 in a time of unthinkable war and inescapable pandemic.
There will come soft rains, and the smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire. And not one will know of the war. Not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone. There Will Come Soft Rains, written by Sarah Teasdale, would later be used as the title of Ray Bradbury's classic short story about a futuristic, fully automated domestic household still operating long after the bomb dropped, still servicing masters that had long been turned to ash. Once we invented the atom bomb, it became harder to see a future for life on Earth.
Listen, I mean, it's not going to help either one of us if the doomsday machine goes off now, is it?
It almost became funny.
Dimitri, there's no point in you getting hysterical at a moment like this.
And if we're talking about films that end the world, we can't forget this bona fide masterpiece.
Again. The theological field of study concerning the world's end is called eschatology, and the particular belief in the imminence of a big event that will fundamentally transform the world is called Millenarianism, or millennialism. They're often interchangeable. They're both from the Latin for 1000. Both refer to a passage from the Book of Revelations.
Revelations 24-6. I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge, and I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image and had not received its mark of their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. The rest of the dead did not come to life until 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them, but they will be priests of God and Christ and will reign with him for 1,000 years. Flawless. The Bible!
So far, we're still in the realm of signs and wonders. But the rapture is coming. It says so in the Bible. Our bodies will be transformed into spirit, and then we'll be caught up in the clouds to meet God.
Millenarian movements center around this notion of a forthcoming significant transformation that will lead to a new age or era of peace, justice, and harmony. At least for the faithful. The unfaithful in these stories are left behind, yes, I have to talk about this garbage for a second, to suffer the tribulations of the end times.
You have to trust completely in God. He'll forgive all your sins. Who forgives God?
Though, if you want a more dramatically interesting interpretation of the Book of Revelations, 1991's The Rapture is a great film about someone who believes in God and believes in the rapture up until the rapture actually comes, after a life of hardship that destroys her faith in God.
No! No, I don't want to go!
Now, it's important to note that millenarian movements don't need to be religious, though plenty are. All they need is a belief in the coming catastrophe before a better society comes.
The end is near.
In the 20th century, US conservatives, William F. Buckley in particular, mocked the left for trying to immanentize the eschaton by working towards a utopia on Earth.
Immanentize the eschaton. Or, in a 21st century idiom, global apocalypse any percent speed run.
Because in this conservative Christian mindset, the only true paradise comes after death. Any attempt to improve life for the living might as well be blasphemy. But of course, hard-nosed cold warriors definitely tried to immanentize the eschaton in their own way.
You cannot win a nuclear war!
Thomas K. Jones, the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering under Ronald Reagan, terrified the nation by claiming that nuclear war was completely survivable if there are enough shovels to go around. And indeed, the true horror of apocalyptic stories is the possibility of not dying, of living through and bearing witness to the terrible new world that catastrophe has shaped.
Jesus Christ, Dolly.
Threads, perhaps the greatest and most frightening film ever made about the atom bomb, is about this horror. Many individual characters die, but others linger, as system after system collapses in the fallout. The film was made during the Reagan era, during the with enough shovels era, to remind audiences that nuclear war might be survivable, but to live through it would be unbearable.
Today it doesn't matter where you live or how much money you have, we are all about to face the same fate at the same moment.
And so these films, all made in the era of climate grief, which end the world not with an ellipsis, but a period, seem comforting by comparison. All of us going together when we go, by comparison, is comforting. Kind of funny, even.
But since the entire world has just been through an apocalypse, apocalyptic stories hit differently now. The COVID-19 pandemic, which on May 5th, 2023, was officially declared over as an emergency by the World Health Organization, was certainly apocalyptic in that it was revelatory. It revealed what our governments and prevailing ideologies truly value. And it's not human life. It can certainly feel like the world is ending. The pandemic is over, but as a disease, COVID is here to stay. Wars are escalating, genocides are ongoing across the world, from the Uyghurs in China to the Tigray in Ethiopia, to the Kurds to the Palestinians, to the targeted campaign against the LGBT community and the trans community in particular in the UK and the US, Kenya, Uganda, indeed all around the world, to the rise of anti-Semitism globally. It certainly feels like certain people want to prematurely end the world. At least for those they deem unworthy to live in it. Add those atrocities to the ongoing climate crisis, and it certainly becomes hard to imagine a future that's better than the present. And there's the trap. Thinking eschatologically, It sounds like it just said thinking scatologically. It means thinking like poop. But thinking eschatologically is a trap. If you act like the end is nigh, you stop preparing for the possibility that the world will go on.
The Sacrifice, the final film directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, shows why. In a spectacular finale to a film and career, we see the protagonist's house burned down in agonizing real time, in an unbroken 6-minute shot from a fire that he lit. He lit the fire because the previous night he heard jet fighters flying overhead, and someone on the radio saying that nuclear holocaust seemed imminent. And yet, he awoke to a world still at peace.
There's an old joke attributed to Abraham Lincoln. A man kept a pet parrot, which every morning, without fail, would squawk, "Today is the end of days, as foretold in the book of Revelations." The parrot, every day, for years, would squawk that same thing. "Today is the end of days, as foretold in the book of Revelations." Like in a parody voice. "Today is the end of days, as foretold in the book of Revelations." Until, one day, its owner shot it, thereby fulfilling the prophecy. At least, for the parrot. One second. Okay, so that wasn't Abraham Lincoln's joke. That was from Tony Kushner's screenplay for Steven Spielberg's Lincoln.
The parrot would wake him each morning, crying out, "Today is the day the world shall end, as Scripture has foretold." One day, the lawyer shot him, thus fulfilling, for the bird at least, his prophecy.
I can't find anything that links that story to the real Lincoln, but it's still relevant. The parrot spent its whole life thinking the end was near. Of course, one day, the parrot will be right. But what a terrible way to live your life, no?
After all, Tony Kushner has plenty to say about the millennium.
I want to be alive.
You only think you do. Life is a habit with you. You have not seen what is to come. We have. What will the grim unfolding of these latter days bring that you or any being should wish to endure them? Death, more plenteous than all heaven has tears to mourn it. The slow dissolving of the great design. The spiraling apart of the work of eternity. The world and its beautiful particle logic all collapsed, all dead. Forever. We are failing. The earth and the angels. Oh, who asks of the order's blessing with apocalypse descending? Who demands more life? When death, like a protector, blinds our eyes, shielding from tender nerve more horror than can be borne. Let any being on whom fortune smiles creep away to death before that last dreadful daybreak when all your ravaging returns to you. When morning blisters crimson and bears all life away. Tidal wave of protean fire that curls around the planet and bears the earth clean as bone.
But still, bless me anyway. I want more life. I can't help myself. I've lived through such terrible times, and there are people who live through much, much worse. But you see them living anyway. When they're more spirit than body, more sores than skin, they live. Death usually has to take life away. I don't know if that's just the animal. I don't know if it's not braver to die, but I recognize the habit. The addiction to being alive. So we live past hope. If I can find hope anywhere, that's it. That's the best I can do. It's so much not enough. It's so inadequate. But still, bless me anyway. I want more life.
Films like these attempt to show the destruction of all life, all hope. But then the movie ends, and Wouldn't you know it? We keep on living. Movies have endings. Individual lives have endings. We are all mortal after all. But life, in the grand scheme, is stubborn. We go on. There will be people lost, and there will be those left to mourn, as it has been since time immemorial. I'm going to leave some resources in the description about living past apocalyptic thinking. By the way, shout out to Zoe B, who dropped a video that I just finished watching. It dropped today as I was filming this, about this very thing. And there are definitely movements that work against this kind of thinking and build long-term plans. That's really given me hope, and I hope they give you hope too. The truth is that we will not all go together when we go. Yes, climate change, war, genocidal movements are very real and very deadly. But none have ever succeeded in ending humanity yet. None. There are always survivors. There are always witnesses. There are always those who live on to tell the story of the catastrophe. In fiction and in fact. A world may end, but not the world. Save those we love, and may we all see a better living world tomorrow. Radical hope, irrational optimism, more life. And remember,
it's not like it's the end of the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We out here.